Good morning, welcome to Breakfast with Chris Mason and Nina Warhurst.
Our headlines today: build our way back to health. The Prime Minister's plan to rescue the economy by fast-tracking new schools, hospitals and transport projects.
As coronavirus cases in the US surge to more than 2.5 million, Florida becomes the latest state to reimpose lockdown.
As Reading remembers the three men stabbed to death in a park a week ago, a 25-year-old man is charged with murder.
Good morning. In sport, no crowds, but there's still late drama in the FA Cup as Manchester United beat Norwich to become the first team to reach the semi-finals.
Good morning. If you thought yesterday was blustery, it's even windier out there today. And whilst for some of us we may just see a passing shower, for others it's going to be a very wet day. I'll tell you where with a Sunday forecast coming up.
Just after 6 o'clock, morning to you. It is Sunday the 28th of June. Our top story: the Prime Minister has pledged to speed up the delivery of major building and transport projects and avoid a return to the policies of austerity.
Yes, Boris Johnson will use a major speech on Tuesday to set out his attempt to stimulate the UK economy, following warnings from Labour that the government's response to the coronavirus crisis is putting jobs at risk.
He'll announce that a new group called the Infrastructure Delivery Task Force will be set up, promising a dramatic acceleration in delivering new schools, hospitals and transport schemes.
Well, the Prime Minister's been discussing his plans in an interview with today's Mail on Sunday. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley can tell us more. Nick, just give us a bit more detail on the Prime Minister's message, would you?
Morning, Nina. It looks like it's going to be another one of those important weeks in politics where Boris Johnson sort of tries to reset the agenda a bit and talk about how to get the economy back on track after the coronavirus crisis. And he's going to be talking about something that, if you cast your mind back only 6 months, believe it or not, to the election, that he spoke a lot about, which is this levelling up project, getting infrastructure projects off the ground as quickly as possible to try and get the economy moving. Things like schools, roads and hospitals. None too subtle in the name, it's going to be called Project Speed, because the message from the Prime Minister is this stuff needs to get moving quickly, and it does come amid a lot of concern that we've been hearing over the last few weeks about the state of the economy. Labour saying again this morning that if you don't invest in the economy and in businesses, then you could end up with millions of people unemployed. But the PM is going to try and get this all front and centre of the agenda in a big speech on Tuesday.
So this is money that had already been promised, but he's saying now he will accelerate those projects. There's a little bit of detail as well, wasn't there, given about his personal life and about looking after the baby?
Yeah, remember Boris Johnson just a few weeks ago was in intensive care himself with coronavirus. Lots of questions kicking about Westminster over the last few weeks about how his health is doing, how he's looking. Have a look at this in the Mail on Sunday this morning. Boris Johnson doing push-ups to show their political editor that he's fighting fit, saying he's as fit as a bulldog. I mean, he's trying to tell us all that he's at the job, it's all going to be fine. He's also saying that he's looking after his new young baby, Wilfred, changing nappies, doing the work that's required of a new dad in the middle of the night. But his fundamental message that he's trying to get across to us all after a few challenging weeks for the government is they have some plans for the next few weeks and months.
Nick, many thanks.
Also in the news this morning, a private vigil has been held in Reading for the families of three men who were stabbed to death in a park in the town last Saturday.
Kaheri Sadala, who's 25, was charged with their murder yesterday, as well as the attempted murder of three others. Caroline Davies has this report.
Three families brought together by their loss. A week on from the attack in Reading, they came together to remember their loved ones, with community leaders, police, ambulance and politicians.
It's been really important for us just to say, you know, Reading is with you, is standing with you and remembering together and supporting you in your grief.
It was before 7 p.m. on the 20th of June when eyewitnesses said they saw a lone attacker, armed with a knife, shouting unintelligible words, heading towards a group. Three men were each stabbed once. David Wales, Joe Ritchie Bennett and James Furlong. They all lost their lives. 3 more people were also stabbed and sent to hospital, but have since been released. The police have charged 25-year-old Kahari Sadala with 3 counts of murder and 3 counts of attempted murder. There have been no terrorism-related charges, despite the police saying last Sunday that they were treating the case as a terrorist incident. The families of the 3 men each lit a lantern for their loved ones. In Reading and across the country, others were asked to remember in the same way, placing a candle in their window to remember the 3 men described as loving, honest and outstanding, whose lives were cut short. Caroline Davis, BBC News.
A Leicester MP has called for a local lockdown in the city after more than 600 coronavirus cases were recorded in the first half of June. Labour's Claudia Webb said the area had what she called a perfect storm of poverty, ethnic diversity and existing COVID-19 cases. The city's mayor says a decision on any action will be taken when the latest data is analysed. The Department of Health says it's supporting the local authority and has deployed 4 mobile testing sites.
Lockdown restrictions have been reintroduced in some US states following a surge in coronavirus infections.
Florida and Texas are among the states that have ordered some businesses, including bars, to shut down again. Tanya Dendrinos reports.
Another day, another record. More than 9,500 new coronavirus cases in 24 hours in Florida, 600 more than the record set on Friday. Republican states like Florida and Texas had been keen to push ahead with a reopening of their economies early, but with a surge in cases, some of those decisions have been reversed. Last drinks were called in Florida, a bitter pill to swallow for those who feel they did all the right things.
We did everything. Our staff were wearing masks. We had sanitizing stations. We did weekly tests. We limited occupancy. We did everything that was asked. It's a tough conversation to have with everybody that we won't be able to provide them with a place to work.
On Friday, bars were also ordered to close in Texas, with restaurants required to limit their indoor capacity.
Certainly share everybody's concern about what's going on, but we didn't think we were at that point where we'd go backwards like that.
Nationally, the US registered its largest single-day increase of the pandemic, with more than 45,000 new cases on Friday. More than 125,000 people have now died of COVID-19, a grim figure, far higher than any other country when it comes to officially recorded deaths. Tanya Dendrinos, BBC News.
Police have named the man who was shot dead by armed officers during a knife attack in Glasgow on Friday. He was Badruddin Abadla Adam, a 28-year-old asylum seeker from Sudan. 6 people who were stabbed, including a police officer, are being treated in hospital.
There's been plenty of gardening going on during lockdown, in every garden other than my own. And the Duchess of Cambridge is now mucking in.
Yeah, she helped with some planting during a visit to a children's hospice in Norfolk. Lee Milner reports.
The Duchess of Cambridge wasn't afraid to get her hands or her dress dirty when she helped families create a special garden at this children's hospice in Norwich. Run by East Anglian Children's Hospices, the Nook was opened last year by Catherine to support families caring for children with life-threatening illnesses. Families like Lisa and Liam Page and their 3-month-old son, Connor. Born with severe brain damage, he came to the hospice for end-of-life care.
That's the easy part. You've got to dig them in now.
With the help of some fellow gardeners, the Duchess hand-picked the plants during a trip to Fakenham Garden Centre near her Norfolk home of Anmer Hall. She chose strong-smelling plants like lavender and herbs for the sensory garden and planted a sunflower in memory of a little boy whose brother raised more than £18,000 for the hospice that cared for him shortly before he died. As the emblem of hospice care, families were given sunflower seeds to plant, just like her own children, who've been racing to see whose will grow the fastest, with Prince Louis currently in the lead. Lee Milner, BBC News.
Gorgeous. Now, the Rolling Stones have warned President Trump you can't always have what you want when it comes to using their music.
The band's legal team says it'll take legal action to stop Mr. Trump using the song as he did at a rally in Tulsa last week. They're working with the performing rights organisation, the BMI, to stop the unauthorised use of their music.
It's quite a strange political slogan to choose as well, isn't it? You can't always get what you want.
Yeah. Yes, I suppose it is, isn't it? Yeah, it's not the usual stuff about sunny uplands or whatever, the beaming optimism. But I suppose it's that thing about him doing the sort of it's us versus the rest type.
Yeah, but it's not
mantra.
exactly your dreams can come true.
No, I guess
Quite
not.
the opposite.
Not the first run-in, is it, that politicians and musicians have occasionally had, when musicians have turned on the telly to discover that their music is being used to advocate a political cause that they might not share.
Let's have a look at what the papers are saying this morning. As we were talking about with Nick earlier, a photograph of the Prime Minister mid-workout dominates the Mail on Sunday's front page as it leads with that Boris Johnson interview we're looking at this morning. It says he's promising what it calls a building blitz of infrastructure projects.
You'd have never seen Theresa May doing that, would you, on the front page of a newspaper? Let's take a look at the Observer next. The Economy also featuring on the front page there, which says that Labour is warning that unemployment in Britain could hit levels not seen since the 1980s. It also features a picture of British tennis stars Andy Murray and Dan Evans taking a knee in support of the Black Lives Matter movement before their match yesterday.
The Corona Miracle, that's the headline in the Sunday Mirror. It tells how an intensive care nurse gave birth to her daughter after surviving both breast cancer and coronavirus.
And let's take a look at the website for the Scotsman, which leads with the police naming the man shot by officers during a knife attack in Glasgow on Friday.
Shall we have a quick look at what's inside the papers this morning? Now, where's it gone?
What are you going for?
I was going to go for, have you been marking Glastonbury this weekend, Chris?
I did flick on for a little bit. I'm very much a festival on the telly man rather than wellies and portaloos and all that kind of stuff.
So you didn't go to town. It's been really interesting on social media looking at how people have tried to reenact or emulate the festival. So here's a couple who've got their hot tub on the go, rocking out, looking at it on the iPad, and they've even recreated the signs, the bar, the pyramid stage and food, and they're what should have been the pyramid stage with a couple of cows looking slightly forlorn. I've got to say, having been to Glastonbury once in 2007 when it was a total washout, Chris, it's much better from the comfort of your house. Or your hot tub if you have one. Do you know that sales of hot tubs have gone through the roof? You cannot get one for love nor money at the minute. Yeah, over lockdown.
You bought one yourself?
In case you're going to try to get one. Don't bother.
You didn't answer my question then. Have you bought one yourself?
No, not the size of our garden, unfortunately.
Just thought I'd check. Let's have a look at the Observer. Have you caught these videos? These are fantastic. By Andrew Cotter, sports reporter, who does these terrific commentaries over his dog walks. So Olive and Mabel have become the stars of viral videos of them going on walks and trying to take part in Zoom calls.
Oh, so does he pretend to have their voices?
No, he is the voice of their master, so in that sense the authentic voice, but he is in conversation with them and then sort of reads their facial expressions to nod to the fact that they may or may not be in agreement with his commands. They are well worth it.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.